Okay, hi class. So we are going to talk about in these chapters we are going to talk about health behavior theories. So last time we talked about social ecological models. So these social ecological models actually give us a framework to understand the health behavior, especially multi-levels of factors that affect our health behavior. So let me share my screen first. Yeah. Yeah, so we last time talked about social ecological models, and as I mentioned, so these models actually provide a framework about understanding of the factors that affect our health behavior. We talked about the 5 different levels of factor last time: individual level factor, interpersonal level factors, organizational level factor, and community level factor. And also we talk about public policy level factor too, right? Yeah. So health behavior theories actually also provide the understanding of the interrelationship of factors in the intrapersonal levels. So we talk about the social ecological models, right? So that actually talk about the 5 different levels, but health behavior theories especially talk about these individual intrapersonal levels factors, like kind of motivations, confidence, belief, attitude, these kind of things, right? So thought, belief, intention, this. So the main purpose of this health behavior theory is to predict individuals' future health behaviors at intrapersonal level or interpersonal level. So that is the kind of things that we are focusing on, like kind of we are focusing on in this class today. So health behavior theories. Okay, yeah. So first health behavior theory that we are going to talk about is health belief models. So we are going to talk about each components of health belief model and then talk about how these models can predict our health behaviors. Okay. So the premise of health belief models, actually, individuals will take actions to prevent or to control unhealthy conditions if they perceive themselves as susceptible to the unhealthy condition and they believe it to cause the potential serious consequence. So this is the one part of the premise of the health belief models. So if we perceive that we see ourselves as susceptible to unhealthy conditions. So like kind of, for example, we are easily getting easily getting disease in certain conditions, that kind of thing. We perceive we are going to easily get disease or something like that. And also we believe that this disease causes the potentially serious consequence, like kind of a death or like kind of sick for longer time, like kind of things. In that case, we probably do taking some actions. Probably that is the health behavior. That is the one part. And also, another part of the health belief model is they believe a course of actions, like kind of taking medication or exercise, can reduce the susceptibility and serious. If we take a medication, so you actually probably taking medication because you believe that taking medications can reduce the susceptibility and serious of that disease or something like that. Also, they believe the cost of actions are outweighed by the each benefit. So there is a more side effects for this behavior. probably you're not gonna take action for this behavior, right? So we kind of evaluate the behavior, health behavior. So that we gonna do taking action if that action is more benefit compared to the side effects or other things or something like that. So this is the another part of the health belief model. So in the next slide, I actually make the more like kind of a clear map for this. So we can tie this model into two different categories, perceived threat and perceived benefit. So perceived threat actually include the severity of the disease and then susceptibility of the disease. So this kind of making form create the perceived threat. And also perceived benefit is that there is a benefit of the taking action and barriers of taking actions. So these two components, perceived threat and perceived benefits, actually consist of these health belief models. Also, we had accused to actions under these perceived threat. So I'm going to talk more detail about each components of the health belief models, like perceived threat and perceived benefit, severities, susceptibility, cues to actions, and benefit and barriers. Okay. So perceived threat. So as I mentioned, perceived threat, perceived include perceived susceptibility, perceived severity, and then cue to actions. So perceived susceptibility indicate that an individual's perception about the likelihood of getting a disease or conditions. Probably some people might have more chance, higher chance to getting disease, like kind of, older adult groups compared to young adult group. Older adults are more likely to higher chance have a higher chance to getting disease compared to young adult, right? Yeah. So individuals' perception. So older adults perceive the susceptibility probably is higher than younger people's, right? Yeah. So for example, another example would be obese people believe that they are higher possibility of getting type 2 diabetes, right? Compared to non-obese peoples, right? Yeah. And also, perceived severity is about an individual's perceptions about the serious of health problems. So from this example, if that persons get type 2 diabetes, probably they're gonna believe getting type 2 diabetes probably causes more serious consequences, like kind of death or like kind of, chronic condition for disease or something like that. So that kind of things is perceived severities. Type 2 diabetes would cause death or other serious disease or something like that, right? Yeah. Cue to actions indicate the people, event, environmental events that trigger behavior. So that might include family history of type 2 diabetes or hearing TV news about the type 2 diabetes, like kind of this information. So also like kind of triggers certain behavior, our health behavior. So this like kind of cue to action, perceive the severity, and perceive the susceptibility. These components actually create the perceived threat. So we actually talk about the one part of the health belief models right now, perceived threat, right? Severities and susceptibility and cue to actions. And then we are going to talk about the perceived benefit then in the next slide. So the perceived benefits include the perceived benefit and perceived barriers. First of all, perceived benefit indicate the perceived effectiveness of taking action to improve the health behaviors. So that means, for examples, like kind of engage in regular exercise might improve the type 2 diabetic condition. So that is the kind of perceived benefit of taking a certain actions. So type 2 diabetes, other things like kind of taking medications. So probably also like kind of can improve the health conditions, right? Yeah. And also we have a perceived barriers in under the perceived benefit. That means perceived barriers, the perceived obstacle to taking action to improve the health behavior. So in order to engage in regular exercise, people might have some obstacles, like kind of, don't have enough time or don't have enough money or like kind of accessibility to access to the fitness facilities, like kind of things. So we always have some perceived barriers when we try to take on actions. So that would be the perceived barriers under the perceived benefit. So when engaged in exercise, there would be cost, so not unpleasant and inconvenient or time consuming like kind of things, right? Yeah. So that actually create perceived benefit. So health belief models. So this isn't about changing health behaviors are predict based on balance between perceived threat and perceived benefit. We just talk about each components of this perceived threat and perceived benefit. So if someone's higher perceived threat, so taking actions, but that someone's believe that the certain behaviors perceive the benefit is lower, this person's likelihood of acting for this behavior is higher or no? Actually, low. For example, so we talk about the type 2 diabetes. Someone's getting like kind of obese people's like kind of more likely to getting high chance to getting these type 2 diabetes, and then getting type 2 diabetes causes some serious consequence and dizzy like kind of a death or like kind of things. Also, they had a family history of type 2 diabetes. So they actually have higher perceived threat. But taking action for this against this type 2 diabetes, so they choose the exercise. But they believe that the exercise perceived benefit is lower. So that means this balance between this perceived threat and perceived benefit kind of not causing this behavior. On the other hand, perceived benefit is high, like kind of taking actions. They have a more benefit, they perceive the more benefit from taking these medications. So they more likely to take these actions, taking medication rather than this doing exercise for this perceived threat. So health belief models always people evaluate their perceived threat and perceived benefit of taking a actions, and then they're gonna actually take the actual behavior. So we can predict future behaviors based on this evaluation between perceived threat and perceived benefit, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's moving on to the next health behavior theories. So the next health behavior theory is the theory of planned behaviors. So the theory of planned behaviors, actually the importance premise of this theory is human behavior is under the voluntary control of the individuals. It is unlike health belief models. So health belief models, human behaviors actually predict by the perceived threat. So people's actually doing some action, health behavior because of this health perceived threat. But unlike a health belief model, theory of planned behaviors actually talk about the voluntary control of the individuals. So people's actually take action based on under their controls, not because of a perceived threat. They actually doing some healthy behavior because of their voluntary controls. So voluntary controls of the individuals, actually the key point of this theory is intentions. Someone's intention is the key point to take action for their health behavior. So let's talk about the intention a little bit more in the next slide. Okay, so let's talk about the key point of the theory of planned behavior, which is intentions. So intentions, the best predictor of actual behavior, according to the theory of planned behavior. So these intentions actually influenced by the three components: attitude, subject norm, and perceived behavior control. So we're gonna talk about this one in the next slide. So actually, intentions must be highly correlated with behavior. In order to do that, intention should be specific in terms of time, behavior, context, in order to act the behaviors. So for example, intention to participate in exercise regularly versus, so this one. These statements indicate the intention is not specific enough in terms of time, behavior, context. But the next statement, intention to participate in weight training 3 times a week in the school gyms. So this intention is very specific, right? Yeah. So this means intentions, the more specific intentions, more likely to predict behaviors, future behaviors. So intention is the best predictor of the product of the actual behavior. In order to predict better behavior, the intention should be more specific. Okay? Yeah. So let's talk about the 3 components that influence, affect the intentions in the next slide. So attitude, subject norm, and perceived behavior controls actually affect intentions. And then these intentions actually affect our actual behaviors according to this theory of planned behaviors. So first of all, attitude. So what is attitude? So attitude is the overall evaluation toward the behavior. So there are 2 different types of attitude: cognitive and affective attitude. So people hold different attitude toward the behaviors. So as I mentioned, we have two different types of attitude, cognitive and affective. So cognitive attitude indicate some types of benefit or not benefit, like kind of advantages versus disadvantages. So probably cognitive attitude, so evaluation of the benefit of this behavior, certain behavior. So for example, engage in exercise is advantageous or disadvantageous. So we evaluate that this behavior is good or bad or something like that, right? Yeah, good or bad. On the other hand, affective attitude is about the emotions, fun or not fun or something like that. So we also had a different attitude about exercise, especially affective attitude. Engaging exercise is fun or boring or something like that. So people have a positive cognitive attitude about toward the exercise. For example, exercise is good, but the peoples also have different affective attitude toward the exercise. Even though exercise is good, but exercise is not fun, boring, or something like that. So this actually can explain why people actually do not engage in exercise. Even though they had a good positive attitude toward the exercise, but their attitude about this like kind of exercise, emotional attitude is not positive. So according to a study, affective attitude predict more intention to increase the physical activities. So here is the one important key lessons. So in order to help people engage in exercise, probably we need to make a fun exercise because this fun exercise affect better, like kind of a positive, affective attitude, right? Yeah. And next components of the theory of planned behavior is the subject norm. So subject norm is the product of belief about others' opinion and the individual's motivation to comply with others' opinion, especially significant others. So for example, if you are non-exerciser and believe that other significant people like spouse or friends in your life think that you should exercise, and then you may wish to do what these others are wanting to do, right? So these subjective norms actually indicate like kind of individuals believe that I need to comply with the others' opinions. Probably if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend and then boyfriend or girlfriends are want you to do exercise every day, probably you might feeling like a motivation to comply with your boyfriend or girlfriend's actually opinions about exercise, right? Yeah. And then perceive the behavior controls the ability of individuals to carry out the behavior, like kind of skills, opportunity, resources, or like kind of things. So perceive the behavior controls also categorize into two different factors, internal factors and external factors. Internal factors might include perception of skills, abilities, knowledge, and planning, and external factors might include perception of time, opportunities, or other people's or something like that. Okay, yeah. And then the last health behavior theory is actually trans-theoretical models. So we call it TTM. So trans-theoretical models of behavior changes is an integrative and comprehensive model of intentional behavior changes. So the TTM has been used to understand the different pathways of motivational readiness to change for variety of health behavior. So TTM is separate into the four components: stage of change, process of change, self-efficacy, and decisional balance. So let's talk about these four components of TTMs. So you probably know about stage of change. You probably hear about these stage of changes. So according to these stage of change, people have different motivation level, different readiness level based on their stage. There are 5 stages like pre-contemplations, contemplation, preparations, action, maintenance. So these stages, stage of changes actually indicate people have different readiness and motivation to change their behaviors. So that is the kind of stage of changes, right? So let's talk about each stage a little bit. Yeah. So pre-contemplation stages, in these stages, people do not intend to take action in the near future. So there is no intention to change their behavior. And next stage is contemplation changes, contemplation stage. So in this stage, people are intending to start the healthy behavior in the near futures, defined as within next 6 months. So people might have some like kind of weak intention to change their behavior within 6 months, right? Yeah, that is the pre-contemplation stage. And preparation stages, people are ready to take action within next 30 days. So people actually had a really strong intention to change behavior in the near futures, and people start to taking small steps toward the behavior change, and they believe changing their behavior can lead to healthier life or something like that. And action stages, people have recently changed their behavior. They already changed the behavior in these stages and then intended to keep moving forward with their behavior changes. And last stage is a maintenance stages. So people have sustained their behavior change for a while, like more than 6 months, and also they have an intention to maintain the behavior change going forward or something like that. So we can categorize peoples in these 5 different levels based on their readiness or motivation to change their behaviors. Okay, yeah. And next components is a process of changes. So process of changes like kind of indicate individuals' strategy to moving on from previous stage to next stages. So there are 2 different types of behavior strategies, like kind of cognitive and behavior strategy to causes the change. So we talk about these 5 different stages, right? In order to moving on to pre-contemplation to contemplations, so probably people needs to have some strategy, right? So these strategies, the process of change indicate that these kind of strategies. So strategies like kind of cognitive behavior strategies, right? So the most effective change strategies are stage-specific intervention that target this process. That means moving on to contemplation to preparation, moving on to action to maintenance stage. Probably the same strategy might not work for these changes, right? So contemplation stage to preparation stage, probably a certain strategy might work, but that strategy might not work for these behavior changes, right? So that's why the most effective change strategies are stage-specific interventions. So we actually, each strategy, each stage have a certain strategy to help people moving on to the next strategies. So usually focusing on using cognitive process of change in early stages and behavioral process of change in later stages might kind of more effective strategies usually. So in our like kind of a online work is about this cognitive process of changes. So you guys probably look at find the information about this process of changes. So we actually have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 process of changes, and then you guys needs to find what these are, and then which stage it might fit to this each process of changes. So dramatic relief, probably this strategy might work for more like kind of a maintenance strategy, for example, like this. So online work, I think the extra credit opportunity is about the explore this process of change, and then you guys actually try to think about the which stage might fit more to this kind of each process of changes. Okay, yeah. So we just talk about this, right? So different stages, and then we need to have a different process of changing, which is the strategy to moving on to the next stages, right? Yeah. So this is the all about the health behavior theory, and then please don't forget to working on the online assignment and review question on Blackboard. Okay, thank you.